Hello everyone, it's James here, otherwise known as CodeBub, and I just wanted to do a quick stream for you today to introduce you to a new project that I've been working on. Just came up with it over the weekend, and hopefully it should be a better way for you to actually complete and learn from doing JavaScript coding exercises by using this repository that I've set up, and I'll explain a bit more in just a second. But the idea is that on my YouTube channel, you may or may not have seen, there's lots of different coding exercises that you can do, but you can't get access to the code. I have actually provided them in a PDF, but you have to actually kind of copy out the exercises and work through them. But the idea with this actual repository is that you'll be able to actually clone it, and I'm going to be working on putting all of the exercises inside there, so you can just run tests locally within VS Code or whatever text editor you're using. And that should hopefully then give you some immediate feedback as to whether you've met the criteria of the particular exercise that you're working on. So if none of that makes sense, don't worry, I'll just go through this in a second. But what I'm going to do in today's stream is just go through the actual repository, how to get it installed, and run you through the first exercise that I've set up in there. It's a bit bare bones at the moment, it's a bit work in progress, but hopefully this should give you an idea of what the intention of this repository is, and you can take it from there and have a little play with it after the video. Excuse me. So what we've got is a repository, a Git repository, and there's two branches at the moment. We've got the main branch and also this beginner exercises branch. So what I'm going to do is just show you how to actually get this installed and run the first few tests. So what we'll do is just go over to the code tab here and just copy the SSH link for it. If you don't have SSH set up for GitHub, that's fine, just use your HTTPS link. And let's go and grab a terminal session. And what I'm going to do is say git clone and then grab the repository itself. And then if we just navigate inside of that, so JavaScript exercises, and we'll open it up in VS Code. Okay, just let that load. Okay, so what we've got basically in here, we're on the beginner exercises branch at the moment. You can nip over to the main branch as well, but the beginner exercises one is the one where we've actually got some tests, some work that we can do in there at the moment. So let's just have a look in these two folders here. So the idea is I've taken the exercise from that first YouTube video, which is JavaScript practice exercises. By the way, if you haven't seen these as well on my channel, there's about 30 videos there now, so there's like hundreds of tests that you can actually, exercises that you can go through and take a look at. But what I will do eventually is take all of those exercises and put them into the repository for you. So let's just go back to VS Code, sorry. So the idea here is we're going to have a spec file which will have all of the tests. So if you've come across the terms of test-driven development or just unit testing in general, then that is exactly what this is. And we were using Jest to actually run the tests, although it shouldn't really matter because they're fairly simple JavaScript functions that you need to write. So from here, I've pre-populated this with all of the tests for this particular exercise. The first exercise in that video was to say, take two arguments into a function and then return true if either of the number is 100 or if both of them add up to 100. So fairly straightforward. You can see I've put the full text of the exercise in there. And then I've written 3 tests for this so far, so we're going to call the function 3 times and check if each of those arguments is equal to 100, or if not, if both of the arguments add up to 100, and then we're expecting a true result back. So what we'll need to do to actually get this up and running, first of all, is just install the dependencies for the package, for the project rather. So if you look in the package.json, we've only got a few bits of, there's Babel to just convert the code so we can use import and export, and we've obviously got Jest in there as well. So all you need to do is just say npm install once you're on the beginner exercises branch, and there's nothing in there, so it takes like literally a couple of seconds to install. And once you've done that, we can actually run the Jest command to actually run the exercises, or rather the specs, the tests that are inside of this file here. So I've provided a shortcut in package.json for this first set of exercises. So exercise 1 will just, as you can see, run Jest and then the file name that we want to run. So what we can say from the command line now, we can say npm run, and then we'll just say exercise 01. Okay, and when that works, you can see that this gives us some failures, and the reason for that is because we haven't actually written any code yet. So these will all fail because we're expecting a value of true to come back for each of those three tests that I wrote, but they give nothing back. So what we need to do, or what your job would be to do if you wanted to kind of work through these exercises, is go over to the source folder, and you can see I've populated this already with the function name and arguments. I might not do that for all of them, but for this particular one, just to get us going, we've got the function name, and all we need to do is write some code to actually return the true or false value just to make those tests pass. Okay, so the whole idea again of this exercise was to check both of the arguments and see if they're 100. So that first test is checking the first argument. So we could say return a is equal to 100, and that should make that first test pass because we're checking the first arguments provided and checking if it's got the value that we need. So let's just run that again by running npm run exercise 01. Okay, and you can see now in the summary from Jest we've got 2 are failing still, but 1 has now passed, and just at the top of the output, too far, you can see there we've got a green tick for that first test, just saying we should return true from the function if the first number is 100. Okay, so we can just basically go through and fill out the rest of these requirements to pass the different tests. So we'll say b is equal to 100. If we run that again, in fact, if you put -- watch into the parameters after the npm command, it should set up Jest in watch mode, so you can just keep running the tests over and over again when we make changes to the source. But you should find now we've got 2 passing, so looking at the summary at the top, we've got it should return true if the second number is 100 as well. So we've just got that final test there that we need to actually look at, or the final condition to make sure that we return true if both the numbers are 100 as well. So we could say a plus b is equal to 100, and obviously that will return true as well. So saving the file reruns the tests with Jest, and you can see now that they're all passing. So that's kind of the first exercise complete. Okay, so hopefully that's just given you a bit of an overview of the GitHub repository, and you can see it's pretty simple to set up. What I will be doing for all of the different videos is to kind of create a branch for each of the different sets of exercises that were in there, and I will put in all of the exercises for each video so that you can go through and run all of the tests for yourself and write the code, and you can be sure that the code that you're writing is actually passing the tests. And this is a really good way to actually write a solution to make sure that you're getting the correct result that the exercise is actually asking you for. But then you can take your time and kind of go back over the code as well and refactor it, try out different things, making sure all the tests are still passing, and also try some different techniques out, try and make it shorter, for example, and neater to read, all whilst running those tests so that you can be sure that the code solution that you've provided is what the exercise is actually after. So I'll leave it there for today. It's just a quick introduction to the repository. Hopefully you found that useful. If you do find it interesting, if you do want to actually get involved in this, then head on over to the GitHub repository and give it a star on GitHub for me. And if you've got any comments or any suggestions, just drop them in the video below. But I'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you again for another live stream where we'll be going through some more exercises in our GitHub repository.